Hey everybody, welcome to the Voxology Podcast. Mike, Erre, Tim Stafford. So glad you're tuning in today. We are still in the middle of wrestling through the just afterglow of the Pearl Jam episode. It has been probably the most remarkable piece of art ever released, ever. And we've received one email of affirmation. So thank you, Lita, for affirming our efforts in that regard.
It was a full day of lamentation. That went out Wednesday morning, the morning that I was supposed to see them in Sacramento for their first show in Sacramento in 21 years.
I know.
And they canceled that afternoon.
I know, because of COVID. It
was a full Pearl Jam day. It was a roller
Damn you,
coaster.
COVID. Damn you, COVID. I want to thank Tara, and I want to thank Mill. Man, I've been mixing up letters. Will and Marguerite.
Miliwake.
Yes. Will and Marguerite for joining our Patreon team. Thank you so much. We're a crowd-funded 501c3, so grateful for your participation in that and your generosity. And today, I think what we want to do, Stafford, is let's sort of marinate a bit on the whole culture war thing. That episode that we did was good and raised a lot of questions. But I don't know about you, man. I feel insufficient.
You know what? I was just thinking that because of the fact that you said marinade and how marinade is such a positive thing that brings flavor. But when I think about the culture war stuff,
yeah,
I don't know that that's necessarily appetizing. We need extra flavor.
I feel like we need a marinade.
Yeah.
And obviously, yeah, it could be a dry rub for sure. But I think the steak of culture war conversation needs a marinade.
Yeah.
And my wife uses Yoshida's. She loves it. But I'm thinking a different flavor. I'm thinking something a little more international. Well, I guess Yoshida's is international. So maybe a little more non-international. But I'm just wondering if our good friend Tim Gombis is like what he's doing right now.
Whoa! What's the deal?
That was so fast.
How did I pop in here? I'm sitting on my patio, sitting in the sun, reading about Phil Mickelson, my new book about Phil Mickelson, and I pop in with you guys. What's the deal?
Oh my goodness!
What is going on?
I forgot to ask you. Did you see what memoir is coming out in November?
No, what's that?
Bono.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Life through songs. Like he's using different songs to narrate sections of his life. So it's a memoir, but he kind of has a
interesting.
Okay.
I love memoirs.
Yes.
I love biographies and all that kind of stuff.
I love memoirs on Audible, listening to people when the author reads their memoir, listening to somebody narrate their own.
Yeah.
Interesting. That'll be good road trip material.
Yes.
Gombis, is now a good time?
What's up, fellas? This is great. That was a great time.
Oh, so
got nothing going on.
My question for you is: you have two wonderful cats
sitting in the sun,
and besides taking care of them, have there been any big highlights this week? Anything great that's happened? Any like emails that were sent or received?
Yeah, I had one of the highlights of my life. So normally I'd be more excited to talk to you guys. This would be like a real highlight. Anything and everything that happens in my life after what happened to me this last week is just, the shine is off. I've hit the high point. Right after this happened, I texted my, the five of us, we have probably like a lot of families have a constant text conversation going on. I texted the kids and Sarah was like, y'all, I'm done. I'm leaving public life.
Punching
my
out.
ambition is dead. I don't want to accomplish anything for the rest of my life. I don't want to achieve anything. I'm out. So
was anyone in the family as excited as you for this?
Oh, totally. They know what know what this meant. Okay.
So they love you and they show love by being excited for you.
Oh yeah. This is the bit. They know how significant this is. So there's one podcast that I listen to without missing an episode.
Voxology.
That's right. And so that's why this is so meaningful.
We'll read your emails. On there. No. What, Tim?
I listen to the Tony Kornheiser show.
Yes.
Every episode, And I used to watch the PTI program with Tony and Mike Wilbon religiously with my boys when they were still living at home. So they know what this meant to me. So yeah, I emailed Tony, and he read my email on the podcast, said my name. He said my name. I can't tell you what that meant. I was visiting my sister in Virginia for a couple of days, playing golf with my brother-in-law. And I was driving all the way back to Michigan, 12 hours, long trip, like every time, like every day. I was wide awake, 2:30 in the morning. And I was like, all right, I'm hitting the road.
Just do it.
But this is like 3:45 in the morning. I hear Tony get to the mailbag at the end of the show, and he reads my email, and I about drove off the road in, Western Virginia.
Was there a shot of adrenaline at that moment?
Oh my word, totally. Yeah. I had to rewind it. I was like, what's the deal? I couldn't believe it. It was totally unexpected. Wasn't even thinking about it. Just listening to it, to kind of stay awake or just to pass the time. But yeah, big deal. Big deal. So everything and everybody and all my experiences are going to be a disappointment from here on out. And that's all right.
Nice.
I've hit the big time. So anyway.
Now, what would you say? Okay, so this was an email, which is great, but I would assume conversation is better, right? Being a live voice on the show.
Yeah, they don't do that though. They have guests, but they don't. It's not a call-in because it's a podcast. You know what I mean?
No, I get that, but I'm just saying, like, on the pantheon of glory.
Oh, like call-in versus
email
writing.
in. Yes,
man, that's a tough one. I would rate them equally.
Perfect.
Especially when you just make a solid point, and they're like, you just really kind of impress them.
Is there one particular point that you made that stands out, where Colin or Tony was like, dude, come on?
All right, so
because I know you have one in your brain.
Setting ego aside. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple. So one time Colin was talking about Phil Jackson and his relationship with Kobe Bryant. And I just, boom, get in the car, call. And I started talking about how Phil Jackson is a coach of the Bulls, coach of the Lakers, coaching big personalities who are sort of go-it-alone players like Kobe and Michael Jordan, how he taught both of those players, the importance of team play, including their teammates. Mm-hmm. And, he had talked Michael Jordan into stop going after scoring titles, but to start, going after wins. And
John Paxson's in the corner, man.
Kobe.
Dish it.
Yeah, Pax with the 3, later Steve Kerr.
Yep.
And later, oh no, this was earlier. This was like in 2009, right when Tiger Woods went through all his trouble. And he was drawing parallels between Michael Jordan and Tiger Woods. And what did I do? Got in the car.
Dude, of course.
Auto dial.
Yep.
And
I love it's on auto dial.
It's like the most called number. I hate talking on the phone. And I made the connection of how, Jordan's, a lot of his trouble and a lot of Woods' trouble came when both of them lost their fathers, which, were in many ways kind of guiding lights for them. So anyway, I don't,
that's solid. That's solid.
So that's a memory from 2009. Obviously, there are some things that are tucked away and some things that aren't.
Did you ever completely flub? I mean, on air, like outside of the one where you were like, and then they didn't let you on. Any stammering, any stuttering,
No.
any like dead air, nothing like that.
No. This is terrible. I remember hearing a preacher say this a long time ago, and I took it to heart. He said, when you get paid to talk, like you preach or you teach, you can get good at talk, and there's something sinister about that. And I heard that probably back in the 90s, and I was like, man, I just want to always remember to be authentic. Being up in, speaking in church or in class, to not sort of be so skilled at just talking about stuff that you're not being completely yourself in those moments. Being vulnerable, authentic, and inviting vulnerability and authenticity. Anyway, but what I realized is in getting on the radio is I'm good at talking. And so if you just I would get out of class, I'm like, man, I just was up there for 90 minutes just talking away. I know how to talk, so kind of putting the positive spin on it, or I don't know if it's maybe equally sinister. And so I would just get in that zone of I know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to start talking.
Yeah.
And just kind of feel it, loosen the shoulders, let it
rip.
rip.
Yeah. I love it. Now, besides harassing Tony Kornheiser, what else is going on in Tim Gombis' life these days?
Oh man.
How's the yard, and have the Midwestern Yard Games begun? The Olympic sport that is keeping your yard nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, Bill, my yard is improving. It was a disaster last year. Yeah. And I've taken a tip from my friend Steve. Ooh. Set the mower. I mean, I've always loved a really clean cut lawn. So I would set it low and just make it nice and tight.
That facilitates
That's bad
weeds,
news.
my friend.
That is bad news. And I just so I've set the mower high, and it's greening up. You got to protect the plant. You can't just chop it so low.
You can't.
So I mean, then you're having to water it all the time, and it damages the plant. So Bill and Al have not got let in on that secret. So Al's grass is not looking so great. I'm not going to say anything to him. No, because I've got to one up Al. Yeah. Bill, after I cut yesterday, Bill is out cutting his grass because I think he feels. Yeah, he feels the heat. Yep. So it's looking good. Is there mulch? Have you mulched? It's looking good. I need to mulch. Okay. This mulch out here is 2 years old. It feels like you're a little slow on that. I mean, by Memorial Day, things should have been mulched for a couple of weeks. But no, I believe that. Okay. I affirm that in theory. Okay, that's great. It's just, it's not looking good. But, I live on a busy street and people go flying by. Yeah. Sounds like whatever. Yeah. But it's not, but listen, it's not them you're trying to impress. It's Bill and then Tim. Bill and Al. And then Al. Yeah. And if I remember correctly, Al dumped a bunch of chemicals from the walking path. Oh yeah. When it was snowing into your yard, and I want to know if it recovered. Yeah, it's looking fine. Okay. Al's meddling, we'll call it. His meddling has not had consequences. That's good. Man, so yesterday I was tilling up the garden because Sarah's making big plans for a garden this year. Yeah. Tilled it up. I was so wiped out. Cut the grass, did some other yard work, and I'm tilling, and I was so tired, drained. And out comes Al, and he just wants to kibitz, and I'm not a kibitzer. Nope, I'm a non-kibitzer. It's the worst of all possible worlds for you. Oh yeah, wiped out. You can't leave. Out of breath. Yep, you can't leave. Yeah, you're stuck with him as a neighbor. Yep. And I can't quite hear him, and he's trying to talk, and I was like, what's that, Al? How you doing, Al? Which to me is I'm being nice. Don't say anything more. Yeah, but he takes it as an invitation to start, what are you planting? And I just said, I don't know. This is Sarah's call. I have no idea. Yeah. I'm just the grunt man. I get out there and pull weeds, but that's it. I eat what she makes. Yeah. You keep what you kill. That was the rule from Chronicles of Riddick, and it's the rule in the garden too. All right. So Sweet Al, we love him and we're fans of him. Good man. Yeah. Good man. But he's not picking up what you're laying down in terms of body language and truncated, abbreviated sentences. Yeah. He doesn't smell what you're stepping in. Yeah. And he is a turtle. He's sort of bent over, and it's like, we used to call him Al the Turtle. And I kind of felt bad about that. Yeah. Except I looked into his yard, and he has 2 miniature turtle statues on his deck. So it's like he knows it. He owns it. He's embraced it. So to call him That's fair. Al the Turtle is just to sort of participate with him in his own identity construction. And
if Tim Stafford were an animal, just right now, off the top of your head, what would he be? Let's go. Tim the
man.
what?
A Wolverine.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
All right, Mike the what? Be careful.
Oh, Mike.
First thing.
Polar bear.
Polar bear. All right, I like that.
Yeah.
Both deadly. I like
Fearsome.
I like Coke.
And that's totally fine.
That's just brought that full circle.
Yes. Well, it was always the Christmas commercials, right? Of the family of polar bears drinking a Coke together. That's what that was.
Right.
It was multi-layered pull,
Yeah.
Mr. Gombis.
That's right. See, that's what I brought. That's the game I brought to the Tony Kornheiser show. Drawing together two inside jokes and just, it was awesome.
So any other, I mean, Tim Stafford, do you have anything else you want to know just that's not exactly on topic? I mean, because I could listen to this sort of nonsense forever. I just absolutely think it's amazing. And having lived in the Midwest, I know the Olympic Games that is your yard care that exists between neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if they're retired. You're sandwiched between two retired guys.
Oh man, these guys got all the time in the world.
They're putterers.
I mean, frankly, I do too now, but we'll see. That's coming to an end.
It is?
Well, I mean, I've got to figure something out.
Oh,
so,
okay. All right.
Got some possibilities and options, but we'll see.
Oh, ooh.
Yeah, talking to some schools, and
No, what a waste.
we'll see.
We'll see. All right, we'll hear more about that off air,
Yeah.
Mr. Gombis. Stafford, anything you want to add? You want to tell Mr. Gombis about our Voxology radio channel?
Oh.
I've always wanted to be a DJ. I was at a couple of different moments in my life, but I found a feature on Anchor that lets you basically make a radio show. You can use all the music on Spotify and then talk in between the songs.
Oh,
so
nice.
we did a Pearl Jam episode on this week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if you have,
fun.
I mean, and if I hear about you having a 12-hour drive through that hits any part of Tennessee and I don't get a text, or
Oh, dude, I thought of you because I was going to stop in Columbus. I was going to text you, but then I'm like, oh, he's not there anymore.
No, I appreciate that. Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, because I came through town on the way back, but
Nice from Springfield.
well, from Virginia, coming back, yeah.
Yeah.
But
All right. Well, listen, I don't know, Tim, if you've been following the news. There are a few things that have been going on lately that seem like they're big deals. And I just wanted to make you aware of them. Number one, baseball season is happening.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so, I kind of had forgotten. I know you didn't, but I don't know how the Cubs are, or my Cleveland Guardians. Are the Cubs
fantastic.
out already?
yeah, they're going to be battling with the Pittsburgh Pirates for the bottom of the division this year. So, well, it's going to be a noble fight, I bet. But it's not going to be a stellar season.
Okay, that's fair. How are the Cleveland Guardians?
I have not paid attention. I don't know. I haven't checked in on the American League. How are they doing?
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. I just finished Breaking Bad, so that absorbed my spring.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah, that was incredible. So I'm just shifting off of.
You finished it.
Yeah. Well, we finished it, and then we started the Better Call Saul.
You also have El Camino.
We watched El
that?
Camino.
Okay.
Yes. And did you like it?
Okay.
Okay. We'll do a movie review later. Gombis.
Yeah.
A secondarily important thing to and really America's next favorite pastime is culture warring. And there was this, as you know, this leak of some sort of opinion, whether it's in final form or not, regarding Roe v. Wade, and that sort of brought into the forefront something that had not been gone from the forefront for very long, which is this constant antagonism that is cultivated seemingly everywhere about how it is that we discuss and reflect on topics that matter to all of us. And so my question for you and topic for conversation today is this idea of culture war as a picture for what it is that Christians ought to be doing in the world. And do you have any thoughts about kind of where that motif started, at least in the American horizon, where it is that Christians sort of became or came to the understanding that the way we are to relate to the world is to try to influence it in its morality in these specific directions? Is there a background to that you've kind of seen, whether it's in issues of race or gender or whatever?
Man, that's a good question. I think it goes back to the very beginning. I mean, I don't know if you guys read John Fia's little book called Believe Me. Something about the evangelical road to Donald Trump, I think is the subtitle. It's published by Erdman's, so I highly recommend purchasing it.
Of course.
Multiple copies. Keep my spouse employed. It is. He traces it back in many ways to the arrival of white Europeans on this continent. So it's not like a recent development in the last 100 years or the 1970s or anything like that. I think it goes back to the very founding when John Winthrop landed and talked about how what they were building in this new land was a city on a hill. Like this country, they're building a country, this new nation that was going to be basically the Christian nation. It was going to be, so taking biblical metaphors to talk about what America is and what they're doing, what this, this nation eventually was going to be. And so I think that idea and that posture toward this country has a long history to the very beginning. So the notion that this is a Christian country or this was a Christian country, that articulation of American identity has behind it like ownership, like this is ours. This was given to us by God. And so we are entitled to it. And that from the very beginning drove all kinds of subhuman anti-Christian behaviors. So that kind of way of thinking drove the genocide of the betrayal and genocide of native peoples to this land. I mean, this land was not discovered by white Europeans. It was inhabited, and then over the next couple of centuries, folks made agreements with original tribes that were here, and ended up betraying pretty much all those agreements and driving people off their land, murder, plunder, rape, theft, in the name of the God who is the Father of Jesus Christ. So, clear, absolute, direct oppositional behavior to what Jesus calls people to be and to do and to.
Did you see the tweet from Georgia Republican candidate Candace Taylor, who actually references the fact that our founding fathers came to destroy American Indians so that we could worship Jesus freely as a positive? Oh yeah. Wow, there's a clip, and I don't know how she nuances it elsewhere, but in the clip, it is by far one of the more egregious examples. Yeah, it's
a clear statement.
The Christian narrative.
Yeah. What's really incredible reading American history is that this stuff was this was all so plainly spoken. Yeah. Talking about savages that were already here that need to be driven off the land, and then talking about African people who were brought here as free labor to build, an economically prosperous nation. It's astonishing. I mean, it's way beyond. It's hard to even capture with words. So the most basic teaching of Jesus, to love your neighbor as yourself, has to be, not only disregarded, but just completely thrown out in order to have that sort of thing. But the culture wars that we see today have that same impulse behind it. This is ours. It's been taken from us, and it's our job to get it back. And in varying levels of violence, and we have different words for that. Influence, impact, engaging the culture, confronting the culture, shaping the culture, whatever. It all is sort of violent language of like we are going to impose our will on this place because it's God's, and it was taken from it's God's, therefore it's ours, and it's been taken from us, and we want to see to it that it once again honors God or something like that. So I mean, the founding it primed the culture wars.
Theologically, where do you see people grounding that impulse?
Well, boy, man, I don't know how you could possibly theologically ground it in anything. Maybe in some kind of evangelical identity, like evangelistic. Thinking that it's our job to preach the gospel and shape people in our image or something like that.
And influence the state.
Yeah, there's a natural step to like influencing the larger nation. And then as David Brody, who wrote a spiritual biography of Donald Trump, talked about how evangelicals I just remember this line, evangelicals have always sought to control the culture, which is just violence, like the imposition of our will on the rest of people. But
how do you reconcile that with democracy, that we're invited to state our opinion and to vote?
Well, as was shown last January, a year and a half ago, democracy is a massive impediment to this sort of thing. And as Republicans are doing these days, just basically scaling back democracy in favor of some kind of authoritarian structure. I mean, just taking away the right to vote from a bunch of folks. But yeah, democracy is an inconvenience to this kind of a vision. And it seems to me that a lot of Christian, quote unquote, leaders get this. I mean, Franklin Graham has had a lot of laudatory things to say about Vladimir Putin, and other Christian leaders have had a lot of great things to say about autocrats in Eastern Europe. So, democracy is going to be pretty threatened, it seems to me. Democracy has always been a very unstable reality because it was never realized fully. Black people, women have never been fully included in the larger national story. And then when they were, the sort of the biggest moment of inclusivity and full participation in the late 60s was the start of the reversal, when a lot of evangelical figures and certainly Republican folks began building, starting in about 1970, the pushback against all the progress made in the civil rights era. So what we have now in the shape of the Supreme Court, the ground was laid for that in 1970. The slow dismantling of democracy and the abortion, anti-abortion movement is wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
The shaping of the Supreme Court to dismantle all the gains in the progressive era, and the way that sort of figures on the right have ensured that evangelicals will always be behind that, is to tie abortion politics in with that. So I don't know whether or not evangelicals realize they're part of a larger push. They just might. I mean, the rhetoric coming from evangelical leaders over the last 50 years is so kind of pro a certain kind of economic vision that it feels like it's almost biblical to many people. I know, when I was growing up, it did to me. But just to get back to what you previously asked, like, how do you theologically ground American identity? A lot of figures in the 1600s, 1700s, grounded American identity in some kind of transference to like the New Jerusalem. So everything that Israel was called to be, that's what America is called to be. Of course, Israel was not called to, do what America's done. But anyway.
But weren't they in the promised land? I mean, I'm just being facetious, but
Yeah, there is
a biblical precedent for the genocide of indigenous people.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's a complicated issue. Israel was called to be the agent in discrete instances of God's judgment on earth. Whenever Israel just went to war or engaged in combat without God's express command, I mean, they were doomed to defeat. But yeah, that's in there, and that's a frightening part of the biblical story. That's very complex, very difficult, I would say, to deal with. It's kind of harrowing in that sense. But yeah, that was all used to justify how white Europeans treated Native people, for sure.
Yeah. When you look at the configuration of culture war today, this is a both sidesing. I mean, culture war, it takes two to culture war, at least. At least I think so.
I'm not sure it does. I wonder about that.
Okay. Oh. Well, first of all, I don't have a doctorate. So I'm just gonna roll over. No. But I see culture war impulses on the left too. Okay. I guess whether they're necessary or not. Do you not see that? Do you see the right just purely as kind of the aggressor in this?
I see people on the left advocating, and I don't know if I like the word fighting, but yeah, I mean that language is used, I bet. Advocating for the full inclusion of all people in the process. So they're advocating for fair treatment of everybody. And it seems to me that people on the right are advocating for their ability to control other people. Does that make sense? So it's like, yeah, there's agitation on both sides, but when one side is advocating, hey, we just want to be left alone. We just don't want to be controlled. We want, say, trans kids to be able to go to school, or LGBTQ plus kids to be able to go to school and be left alone.
Yeah,
that's different than, we want to sort of control how parents parent their children. You know what I mean? It's there on the right, there's an agitation for power, and on the left, there's like an agitation for pluralistic kind of peace.
I think people would quibble with that. I think
fine.
On some of the extreme left, there is an agenda or an agitation towards
for control.
Yeah, but regardless, that's not at all central. I was
not as good at it.
Well, hey, we've been trained in this for years. So
I have a two-part question for both of you. One, I was reading an article this week that was railing against any kind of pro-choice stance. It was actually railing against Tim Keller, who had kind of a nuanced response to saying, "Hey, we can't necessarily legislate people. That has proven that it doesn't work, and it's not what we're called to. There are better and more constructive ways of going about abortion politics." But in the article, the guy referenced, I know we're called to love our enemy, but it's
always
really
any
important.
but. Yeah, any
really
but after that, you've lost it.
The claim is that the biggest part of love your enemy is that there is in fact an enemy, and that you have to so that's what we should be taking away, is that we do have enemies. We are in a battle. We are in a war. And that seems to be such a big piece of the rhetoric for so long, is that we have to have an enemy. We always have to be coming up against something. Why is that? Where does that come from? Why does that seem to be the driving force in so much of our Christian like identity is that we have to be against something. We have to be under threat. We have to be marginalized even when we're the ones in power. And then just in culture war in general, Mike, you said this last week, I think a little bit, like we're not called define how we engage in standing up for what is right within this culture war climate. Those are my questions for you, Brainiacs.
Yeah, those are good. What would you say, Mike?
No, you don't get to punt to me. First of all, no one calls me doctor. I mean, I've tried that with my wife.
No one calls me that either.
Yeah. I would say as to the first, always needing an enemy. I mean, we know that is the most popular way to unify a group and to agitate towards policy or fundraising or whatever. Having an enemy and defining a boundary is the easiest way to give a group an identity or to give an individual an identity.
Do you think that that's become such a commonplace thing that now that's sewn into our background understanding? Like it's not even as intentional anymore. It's just part of our governing process.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anybody could.
Or is there an Illuminati that's pulling, like a Christian Illuminati that's
of course
making the plans every year? They decide what day Easter's on, and then they also.
Yeah, Max Lucado is a part of that, is what I heard. So I've always had suspicions about that guy. Is that something you'd agree with, Professor?
Yeah, no, I think that's really well said. Yeah. Having a group to be able to define yourself over against is a great way to build like tribal cohesion.
Yeah.
And then also, this is, I mean, from the beginning of time, this is how ambitious leaders then establish credibility and gain a following is by drawing on fears, exploiting fears and suspicions and desires for safety and security, by demonizing some group as a threat and seeing them as a threat. And all of that is absolutely deadly.
Yeah.
I mean, to be a Christian, I think that's an inappropriate way of reckoning with Jesus's command to love your enemies. I see that as a way of life. Like any group, any person born into a group inherits quote unquote enemies or people that are on the outside of our group.
That's right.
And the way of Jesus involves a lifelong and generations long for a community process of turning enemies into friends. And so it's like the gradual pursuit of eliminating the category enemy. Yes. As we go about making peace. It doesn't sort of see enemy as a static category. It's one that should always be diminishing.
Right. And what was really the example? Good. A great example was that the guy that was befriending all the KKK members,
yeah.
And he would collect their robes as they became. It was a black man in the South, and as he became friends with them, he would collect their robes, and he has like a closet full of all these guys that he has developed relationships with.
That's it.
Yeah,
it's a powerful example.
Yeah, there's some people that have done this who may or may not be Christian, which is, I think it shames the people that make a Christian confession. Sarah Silverman was doing this after the 2016 election. She went around different parts of the country, interviewing people, trying to really understand where people are coming from. It was really interesting. I mean, what a great way to do the very thing that Jesus says to do, just to transform relationships through hospitality and conversation, kindness.
Yeah, that's it. And then Paul, of course, explicitly redefines battle, war, that whole imagery around on the basis of a community against the powers and principalities who are trying to divide us. So the very act of naming enemies, we're empowering the powers almost along lines of difference. And so the church stands as the place where those lines of difference are overcome through exactly that: hospitality, kindness, compassion, inclusion, all those sorts of
intentional
things.
Peacemaking, and where we can't where those efforts are stymied, we grieve.
Right.
You know,
Yes, we
it's
lament.
not like we say, you know, we tried to make peace with these people, but it failed, so we're going to slaughter them, or we're going to demonize them, or whatever. You know?
So how do we engage? I mean, what would be some thoughts around how do we engage in public policy, because we're invited to vote and to have opinions, without that energizing of antagonism or demonization or enemy making? How would Paul or Jesus or anybody, how would they give us a different metaphor maybe, or image for understanding our relationship to the world rather than culture war?
This seems to be like one of the hardest things right now, because you know, Tim, earlier you brought up, like, I don't know if people are waking up to the reality of how the evangelical church has been X, Y, and Z, and there does seem to be a very large component of, you know, maybe younger evangelicals or people who have gone through the quote unquote deconstruction process, that, you know, the Trump years obviously woke up a lot of people to say, whoa, this is not what I thought I was a part of.
Yeah, something happened to my people.
There's definitely a split there where people have kind of polarized a little bit harder within quote unquote the same tribe or whatever, that have kind of moved out to the sides of it. And the reason I thought of this question this week was because I was watching Sean Foyt and Greg Locke in front of the Capitol just going.
This is not good for you, Stafford. This is not good for your heart.
You know, we know that the negative voices always capture the most airtime. Obviously, they're seeking to capture as much airtime as possible. I don't want to take their own agency out of what they're doing, but they were out there screaming and yelling, and Locke was doing his thing, and Sean Foyt was doing his thing, and those are the loudest voices in the room. They are affecting people's thinking and voting and all that kind of stuff. And obviously it doesn't seem prudent to go stand in the other corner and do the same thing with opposite rhetoric, but how and where, and, you know, and sorry to curtail, Mike, what you were starting with that.
Yeah, seriously.
You're
always stomping on my toes, Stafford.
Those are emails we get quite a bit, is like, what do I do with this? What is my role in this? What am I supposed to be doing? How am I to be a peacemaker within this climate that is so agitated and so fragile and so angry, and
where I have opinions about, and I'm invited to have opinions and express those opinions.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard. It's really tough. I think, I mean, the high road is always the hardest route to take. The path of peacemaking is well, just like you said, Mike, in Ephesians 6, like that, Paul, he brings that battle language to bear in peacemaking. You know, I mean, this is, you know, put on this weaponry, you know, which is like the gospel of peace, which calls the church to practices of peacemaking in the battle to stand against the powers in their seducing us into postures of anger and actually seeing ourselves as enemies of other humans.
That's good.
But I mean, it's like, to me, I think a lot of this requires practices of quiet. I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to not really say a whole lot in conversations where there's a lot of anger. I think, this is just what I've tried to do. Try to cultivate conversational patterns of asking questions, of not responding, not participating when the heat gets turned up. A couple times calling out, asking, you know, why is someone so, you know, the fruit of the Spirit as opposed to the works of the flesh. The works of the flesh, one of those is outbursts of anger. And, you know, James says that human anger does not effect or does not bring about the righteousness of God. So there's something sinister about human anger, or at least precarious. Anger is an appropriate response to injustice, but whenever we're angry, I think we have to understand that that's a very precarious moment. But I think this is just what I do. I've tried over the last bunch of years to read other perspectives than what I was raised with. to figure out, what pressures, what unique pressures are brought to bear on Black communities. So learning about the historic Black community, historic Black experience in America has been really eye-opening to me, because I was raised in a evangelical white upper middle class context that shaped my imagination to see there's a right path. There's a whole lot of wrong going on, and here are the reasons, and here's what it should have looked like, and here's how it doesn't look like that, and here's how it has to change. And it seems to me that so much of that was driven by a desire to accumulate, a desire to hold on to what we have and make sure that no one else takes it. And those are not really appropriate ways of seeing myself in the world. So it seems to me that when I think about engaging the world, whatever that means, or living in my neighborhood, it seems to me that the dominant metaphor should be a good neighbor.
But but Tim, yeah. Here's where, if I can't stomp on Stafford, I'm going to stomp on any Tim I can get a hold of. No, I wanted to interrupt and say, this is where your work on Christian identity has been formative for me, because that's where it starts. Well, I didn't know that I inherited a way of understanding what it meant to be Christian in the world. To be Christian in the world meant you believed things, you did things, but that was also a way of seeing my role in the world as an agent of God's kingdom. But that language led into postures of evangelism and certain voting patterns and community patterns and relating to people. And so when we go back and unwind what Christian is, and you start with kind of a cruciform definition, then a lot of those questions downstream are answered differently, because you began at such a different place. So one of the ways your work and Gorman's work has been super helpful for me personally has been, all of those patterns that you engage in, yes. But those patterns only help me if I'm coming at them from a place that radically redefines what it is to be Christian in the world.
Totally.
And so I'd love you, if you wouldn't mind, riffing a bit on that. So if we were to say, okay, Tim, what does it mean to be a Christian in the world? Where do you start? And then how does that work its way downstream to how do I vote as a cruciform person? How do I hold policy opinions as a cruciform person? How do I relate to people who are antagonistic as a cruciform person? Because obviously I'm going to have thoughts about abortion and sexual minorities and all of those sorts of things, but the goal is to not be defined by those. And so how do we, so from what spot should we start with Christian identity? Let's just kind of start there.
Yeah, I think it's, the fundamental teachings of Jesus are, love your neighbor as yourself. You look after yourself. When you're tired, you take a nap. When you're hungry, you get yourself food. So that's how you ought to be treating your neighbor, being attentive to what their needs, desires are for self-preservation, and just, how to treat other people with dignity as if they just massively matter. And so, and then also, being a good neighbor entails, or being a transformed human entails an absolute priority on the richness of human community. So I'm somebody who is in relation with my neighbors, and they're relationships of reciprocity, because that's God's original design. Like, we give and receive gifts. None of us seek to control the other. We're
bear one another's burdens, love one another, serve one another.
When I love my neighbor as myself, when I'm loving my neighbor, that's defined by my neighbor. So
huge point.
So I participate in the world with my fellow humans, just like a good neighbor. What can we do to make our lives better in this neighborhood? And how can we look out for one another when people have needs and that sort of thing? So I'm thinking about my neighborhood. And I also think about, when I think about living in the world, I cannot think of myself apart from my identity in the church.
Yeah.
That's my primal identity. I'm baptized into that body of people. And so we as a group of people are looking to establish friendships and partnerships of mutuality and reciprocity in our larger neighborhood and in our city. And so when I'm thinking more widely as far as my neighbors throughout the city. And what I know is that, Grand Rapids, Michigan, routinely the number 1 or 2 best place in America to raise a family is that's always kind of trotted out there.
Is that a poll taken by Grand Rapids people? I mean, does anyone else have say in that?
We just advertise that.
Yeah. Okay.
I think someone just said it at some point. I don't know.
Nice.
I was sent.
Sounds
We
nice.
moved here 11 years ago. We were sent that ranking, thinking, "Oh yeah, this is awesome, man. Our kids are gonna just be the best people ever." Well, this is Grand Rapids is. These are all economic indicators, and it's also by social and economic indicators. It's one of the most difficult, stressful places in America to live as a Black person. So those are my neighbors. I'm called to love my neighbor as myself. That matters to me. And so we talk about this at our church. What is going on that's happening? So if I'm loving my neighbor as myself and I'm a political actor and we as the church are political actors, we have to start imagining that what matters is people who have been mistreated. That's unacceptable. So when I think about kind of agitating in public or my participation in political processes, I was taught to think, what politician is running on a lower tax rate? I want less of my money taken away in taxes. That matters.
Yeah, more of my rights enforced. Yes,
and my rights.
Yeah.
So like that, those were the things that mattered. And as somebody who is baptized into the death of Christ, who's already surrendered all my stuff and everything, I can't talk like that. I can't say, well, what matters in this city, state, country is that less of my stuff be taken away in taxes. I have to think in terms of, hey, the way that some of these folks in our city are being mistreated is unacceptable. What are the policies that are being propagated that further the oppression of people who we've all just gotten used to them being oppressed? We call that normal. And we have, I've come to see that there's a whole middle-class way of thinking about people trapped in urban poverty. And we have ways of justifying that ideologically by blaming them. So when I think politically, or when I think about voting, which is, one of the most anemic ways of participating in culture politically, but it's important, important. Our political behaviors ought to be far more involved routinely.
Yes.
But when I think about voting, I mean, honestly, it's obscene how much money I have. We have so much. And if the tax rate for our family goes up from say 26% to 30% a year, our lives are not going to be much different. But if certain policies are enacted in our city, that's going to affect people who are right on the edge, whatever their ethnicity is or race. So what are those kinds of things? So that makes me do my research about voting a bit differently. How are my neighbors being affected by policies that are made? And then I think we as the church can think about how we might act as advocates for the just treatment of other people so that other people are treated with full dignity. I mean, those are my general approaches. I can't think about myself and my interests. I have to think, I have interests. I want my comfort. Because I follow this teacher who says, okay, track your thinking patterns. Now apply all of those thinking patterns to other people around you. And so I have to be thinking about, all right, well, what will keep money in the pockets of single moms working 2 or 3 jobs and they're right on the edge? What are some of the housing policies? Is it acceptable at all that we tie school funding to property taxes? I mean, these are all policies that just sound, well, it's just a policy. These are policies that reinforce injustices, so that we as a nation agree that some children are just not worth looking after, whereas other children are. So I think we have to, so just to pull back, to summarize, I just think radicalizing and sort of pushing out that command as a political command, loving our neighbors as ourselves. And, who's my neighbor? Some smart aleck asks Jesus, and it's like, the person across the border, or the person that you don't see. So I don't know. Those are all some of my, and then I want to know, like, what are the dynamics that have trained me to not think that way? And there is a conspiracy in America. We've all signed up to it, where people like you guys and me, white men, have sort of been trained by America to not see black spaces, to not see immigrant communities, and to not see them as important. So we have to look for them, or to not see rural poverty, to not see the groups of people in our culture that are, for whom life is difficult. Like this friend of mine, Marin, is helping me to understand that I'm not only a white male, I'm also fully abled. And it's like, I've been trained to not see people with disabilities, people who are disabled. What is life like for them? What was COVID like for them? When caregivers couldn't enter their homes? I mean, we talked about this during quarantine. I mean, it was like my fantasy came true. I couldn't believe that I didn't have to go out into public for months. It was like I miss it so bad.
It's all right. We have monkeypox coming. It's fine.
Sweet. But it's like, man, life got complicated for Marin. And it's just so when we talk about cutting funding, or when Mitch McConnell talks about, high on the Republican priority list is entitlement reform. That's such a clinical, expression. Entitlement reform is going to be on the agenda for Republicans. Well, what that means is money for people who, quote unquote, don't deserve it, but feel they're entitled to it. Well, I don't think they feel they're entitled to it. I mean, perhaps we as a nation care about those who are less advantaged than we are. And maybe that's a good thing, Mitch. And speaking about entitlement, dadgummit, someone really has made a fortune being in the Senate. So, I mean, who's getting a handout is what I want to know. Mitch. Moscow Mitch.
Moscow Mitch.
All right. So the predominant, or maybe not predominant, but maybe the image that I should carry around in my brain as I am someone on a cross, and I have renounced my rights in service of others. And that is the posture I have in the world. So when I'm making voting choices, I'm looking at those places in culture that I've been trained not to look at, and to agitate or advocate for policies that help my neighbors in ways where they've been neglected or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
If you take a topic like abortion, and let's say you believe that life begins at conception or by the end of the first trimester or whenever, and you have a culture that values very much individual rights. On the other side too, how do you work out what love of neighbor looks like then? When my neighbor says, "Hey, I think we should," and I'm playing every role of devil's advocate imaginable just to set up the question. But if you believe that that's murder at some point, debatable when, and my neighbor says, "Well, I think we should have the right to do that, even if the child's born and is deformed or whatever, disabled." and you very much disagree with that, then how does love of neighbor best begin to express itself in scenarios where you advocate for a different good than your neighbor would?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Boy, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to recognize, my general approach to any of these kinds of things are to understand, how did we get here? What's the history of this discussion? So, the history of Christian thinking is quite complex, and Michael Gorman actually wrote a book on that. I think it was his first book.
Abortion in the Early Church.
Yeah, and he wrote a Facebook post on this the other day that I wanted to take the time to read, but it would have taken more than 2.5 minutes. So I got that flag to go back and check out. And so I want to understand the history of the discussion.
That's good.
And then for me as a Christian person, I want to know, for myself, this is just some self-reflection. How is my participating in these discussions, and how is my sort of loyalty to our group, and my assuming that the way that we talk about all this is right? How does holding all of that shape me and shape us as a community? And what I've come to see is abortion politics have shaped conservative Christian white people in ways that are terrible, in ways that are just plain awful. They have fired the way that we hold these things, has fostered the demonization of others, which Jesus says not to do. It's drawn us away from love of neighbor kind of postures to sort of control our neighbor postures. That's not good. And a lot of other practices and patterns of behaving that are not Christian. So that's problematic for me. Also, I think it's important to understand the history of abortion politics since the early 1970s, and to see that there were forces at work to create a voting bloc, a reliable voting bloc, and that was evangelical people. And so there was sort of this casting about by a bunch of not great characters to try to find an issue that would fire up evangelical voters. And as the 70s wore on, abortion was chosen because they were able to sort of use it for those purposes. And those folks have drawn and sort of locked in evangelical voters to their agenda. And it is an agenda that is making life increasingly difficult in America for Black people, for immigrants, for the poor of any ethnicity, for the differently abled or the disabled, and so it's been drawn into a larger national movement of oppression. So that's a problem. And when it comes to thinking about what to do about abortion, my first thought has got to be, I'm part of a body of people who are a political people first and only, because we're all in submission to the Lord Jesus Christ. And so when I think about political action in the wider sphere, I want to think in terms of what can the church do about abortion? And that's where, or what should the church do about abortion?
Right.
And that is where churches need to sort of get themselves together and have discussions about what does it look like for us to be thoroughly Christian and address this issue. That might mean we've got to turn it down a lot of notches, turn down the rhetoric. That might mean we need to place the issue within a larger framework or other frameworks. And I'm not sure. I think in the process of all that, the process of all of those discussions is what it means to be Christian. We participate in discussions where we listen to one another, we dignify one another. Are there instances where abortion is appropriate? Are there instances where it's regrettable but preferable? And all these things have to be put on the table. Where I don't know, did you say it or did Tim say it? but Tim, you said this a little bit earlier. Tim Keller expressed a nuanced opinion, which in the freighted culture war, if you are nuanced or measured and you're not blasting people, you are understood to be a traitor.
Yeah.
And that means that we, and I want to own my spot in this culture, the subculture. That means that we've become malformed, that we are not being Christian, because we feel that at some point the commands of Jesus, there are issues that are so important that at some point being Christian has to be dispensed with. And this is,
that's so good.
do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
This is exactly what, sort of Old Testament or biblical Israel made this mistake. These are the mistakes that Peter made.
And that's the rhetoric from that article too. Like love your enemy, but first let's really discuss enemy, and that we have them, and that.
Yeah, when we start talking about the commands of Jesus, and we start using language like, well, Jesus said this, but.
Exactly.
Or we say things like this. Jesus said this about how he should behave politically. Well, how else are we gonna? And then
yes. Or what about?
Yes, totally. So when we see Jesus's commands as getting in the way of what we perceive as Jesus's agenda, it's like we obviously have missed something. Yes. And we hear this all the time.
Preach. Or as they would say in Breaking Bad, church, yo. That means it's sacred text. I don't even want to admit this, but I have watched 2 episodes of Breaking Bad, and I feel it's such an overwhelming project to actually watch it. I haven't started, but I'm going to this summer. The second episode, I'm doing it. Yeah, you need to do it
this summer. I know my whole family did. I don't remember what I was doing at the time. I don't know. It must have been 2016 when all I was doing was.
You were calling into sports radio shows, my friend.
Sports radio. I was calling Colin.
All right, listen, Tim. I'm going to stop us right here on this topic because that was freaking amazing.
In the future, it would be awesome to have a conversation about just nuance and defining that and defining the difference between that and kind of just the black and white. I think it'd be a really interesting.
You could nuance, or maybe somebody you can rephrase it as like the person in Proverbs who speaks wisely. Things are so important we can't afford to embody what the Proverbs say about how to use our mouths. It's like it's really bad, but that's really the mistake that we have made that we're driven to as Christian people. Like, this issue is so important. Like, the LGBTQ issue is so important. We can't afford to be Christian in this instance. It won't get us where we need to go.
Yeah.
So yes. Oh my goodness.
All right. So one last thing about how abortion politics have shaped us. I have a good friend whose life has been marked by her having had an abortion when she was a teenager. And what she knows for doggone sure is that the one place that she will not be able to share her story and work toward healing is the church.
Yeah.
Come on.
And so that's one further way in which the church has become a place that's inhospitable to people who, because of whatever reason, the reason never matters.
Yeah.
People whose lives bear scars know that they cannot enter a church and work through those. And that's heartbreaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway,
man, that's
really
so good.
Is.
Yeah, you're right, Tim. Thank you for giving us just so much time to sort of process a framework. Because I'm interested less in an answer and more in an approach. What is a Christian way that's different from the Christian way I inherited to kind of process all of this that's going on in the culture? So, man, we're always so grateful for you.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, absolutely. I think about this all the time. When Mary sung the Magnificat, when she celebrates how the gospel is good news for the poor, and she's a woman, gospel is good news for women. And so if the church is not good news for the poor, or the church, which is the creation of the gospel, if the church is not good news for women and for the poor, something's off.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that'll preach. Or
that's politics.
As my friends say, church, yo.
Thank you for listening to this conversation. Voxology is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is supported by listeners just like yourself. If you'd like to partner with us, you can do so at patreon.com/Voxology. You can also join the community and hang out and chat with us on the socials. Facebook.com/Voxology Podcast and on Instagram @Voxology. Thank you for walking the long road with us.